Good enough?
Anything you gleaned being out there today?
Well, Scotty, I think, it's the first time we've seen Nix throw in person since the end of the season and after, whatever physical things he's gone through uh, early in the offseason. So I thought he looked pretty good. Alex Singleton was participating in some of the individual work. He did not do team things, but 8 months out from an ACL, that's pretty good progress. And I think Hufanga showed up ready to show folks he can play a little football, and I thought he had some moments where you can have moments in these kinds of things. And did see Greenlaw on the field late in the practice, but he did not participate in anything and is not expected to until minicamp. But those are kind of my big takeaways today.
Jeff, one thing that I'd noticed, and maybe I was right, maybe I'm wrong on this, but it did seem like the starting wide receivers was Cortland, Devon Vele, and Mims, but it looked like they were rotating a lot of guys in and out with the starters, especially the wide receiver position. I kept looking down at my roster. I'm like, who is that? Who's number 80? Who's? Did you feel like there was a lot of rotation going on?
Yeah, some of that, Tyler, is they don't want the top three guys blowing hamstrings out because they're running 30 more routes than the other guys. So they've tried to divvy up some of that work, but it's also a lot of times when they sign these guys as undrafteds now, there comes a little bit of a promise that you're going to get some reps and get to show what you're about. And that's part of the recruiting process. So some of that work is getting guys the reps to get a good look at them. I mean, they know what Mims is about. They know what Vele is about. Cortland Sutton still had the best catch of the day. No matter who got the reps, but you're right. There was a lot of movement there. There was a lot of movement in the secondary, among the secondary, and then at linebacker too. I thought they were really trying to cycle people through and at least get some snaps on video.
How does Estime get the snaps and plays that are required of him while still getting the bang for your buck you want out of RJ Harvey? How does that work together?
There's a good chance we're asking that in November. How do you divvy up the carries? And, if there's no clear one, then it's just a sort of a fight to get whatever carries you can. For Estime, I think they'd really like him as an early down option, because they brought him here and saw him primarily as that early down runner, and then just never gave him the snaps. And the playoff game will befuddle me for a long time how he's a healthy game day inactive for a playoff game. But the hard part for a player like Estime is you don't get the wind up. Whatever snaps you get in any practice, you better get noticed. Do something that forces them to give you the next snap. And whether that's fair or not, I don't know, but it's going to be a fact of life for the other backs, because they went searching for Harvey in the draft. They liked him in the draft. The head coach really likes him. So if you want to get snaps, you better get noticed, and you don't get okay, I had a bad Wednesday, but I'll come back and get them on Thursday. You don't get that luxury. You're going to have to get noticed every time, and that includes now.
Hey, this Bronco team coming off a playoff berth last year, a lot of expectations to do more this year. They were 1-7 against 500 or above teams. How does that record change?
That's that will be the crux of their season, because they don't get the luxury of the stroll through the NFC South this year. That 4 of their wins came from a division the head coach has owned since he arrived in New Orleans. So that's a big part of it, Scotty. What do they look like when they're fighting in their own weight class, as it were? And I think they got to do more on offense. I don't know, other than the Browns game and some other bobbles. I don't know over an 18-week season, 17 games, 18 weeks, that you can ask more of a defense. You might have a little better stats and you might have a little better analytics here and there, but they need more from the offense. They were one of the 3 worst teams in the league last year at 3 and outs. They can't be in that company this year. You can't keep handing the ball back to the other guys and expecting your defense to hang in there. So I think, to me, that's the start, is just staying on the field, and not being with the Carolina Panthers and the New York Giants in the 3 and out club.
How many battles do we have going on in this team? How many positional battles are there?
I don't think there are many. I think it's more about snaps. You're fighting for snaps because like Jahdae Barron's going to play, and I think they'll line him up at several different positions to get him those snaps, but that means somebody else isn't getting those snaps. And I think those are the kinds of battles you're seeing. What we're talking about at running back, the 3rd wide receiver, the 4th wide receiver, who's getting those snaps, the nickel linebackers, all of those sort of situational battles, but no real big, this starter over this starter. And I think that was kind of Sean Payton's goal this year. I don't think they wanted a lot of position battles. I think they wanted a lot of those situational choices. This guy's better on 3rd down, and that would make them better overall.
Man, we're seeing some highlights right now, Jeff, on ESPN about the Broncos, and Tyler talked about it earlier. That new facility is gargantuan. Holy cow. We knew it was going to be big and everything, but it is something else to sort of see it in real life. What impact will that have, if any, this year on anything going on with the team?
Just a noise factor. They're going to be practicing with, the diesel machines running all around them. So it's mostly just that the construction's going. I mean, they still plan on walking in there with it done next May.
Amazing.
So that's putting your foot to the floor to get that done. But it'll make the current facility look like a garden shed when it's done. I mean, it's just going to be
crazy.
I keep looking at that, Jeff, like, what the heck do you put in all that? What do you do? What do you do with all that space?
Yeah, it's just when I think about my first few years covering the team, the current building didn't even have a second floor for a lot of it's just funny to see. But they're moving a lot of their employees from the stadium down to the facility. They're going to have everybody in one place, essentially, which will be the first time since the earliest days of the franchise's history that will be the case. So that's part of it, but it's going to be palatial, and free agents are going to have really nice visits in the years to come because it's going to be pretty swanky.
Jeff, every time we have you on, we got to either talk about your hometown Milwaukee or being alums of the University of Arkansas that we are. Drew Sanders was mentioned today and asked a question from Sean Payton, and I gotta know. He's come back from an ACL too. What's your expectations, or are there any on him?
Achilles. He had an Achilles.
That's right.
Yeah. But that's a guy they want in the mix. And again, that's that situational competition. They want him at inside linebacker. Well, Dre Greenlaw's an inside linebacker. Alex Singleton's an inside linebacker. So it's about how you going to line all these guys up. But they see Sanders as that 3rd down passing situation, inside linebacker with the potential as a rusher in those situations, moving them inside the box as a rusher, because those guys are hard to find. And he has that capability, but I think they expect him to be and have impact on passing downs, especially early in the year, and then go from there.
All right, Jeff.